I had been married to Sebastian for 3 years, he gave me all his favoritism. Until one day I happened upon the keeping agreement he'd tucked away in the safe. I confronted him like a madwoman, and he replied with an offhand calm, "Didn't your father cheat too? Your mother put up with it, I'm just playing around. Why can't you?" After that, I sold the house and car he'd given me, destroyed the traces of our life together, and walked away. After Sebastian and I fought about the kept relationship, he didn't come back for 3 days. I also stopped calling like before to ask where he was. Today he returned in the early hours. I wasn't feeling well and tossed and turned, unable to sleep. So when he came back, I was still awake. At the rustling sound behind me, I slowly closed my eyes. Soon I felt the mattress beside me dip. Before I could react, a warm chest pressed against me. My whole body stiffened. The embrace that once felt unbearably comforting now offered nothing but resistance. I shifted my body to avoid his touch. Then he said abruptly, "Why are you so cold?" "I'd just had an abortion today, my body hadn't recovered, how could I not be cold?" I touched the back of my hand, which felt chilly, and said faintly, "I'm not feeling well." He hesitated, reached out to pull me close. I brushed his hand aside and swung my legs out of bed. Sebastian frowned when he saw me and asked, "Where are you going?" "Guest room." Maybe it was my tone that provoked him. Sebastian's face flushed with irritation as he said, "When are you going to grow up? Do you have to throw childish tantrums with me?" There was impatience in his words, as if the whole thing had been my unreasonable fuss from the start. A ripple stirred my otherwise untroubled heart, and a bitter smile touched the corners of my mouth. "So in your eyes, the one who's always making a fuss is me, right?" Sebastian's dark eyes stared at me without blinking for a moment. He pressed his thin lips together and didn't respond to what I said. Yet somehow he tacitly agreed with my words. A coldness flickered at the corner of my mouth as I turned to look at him. "Since we've reached the point of mutual loathing, find some time, let's go to the Civil Affairs office and register our divorce." At those words, the anger in Sebastian's eyes deepened several degrees. He swung his legs off the bed and came straight at me. "Celia, I made myself very clear to you, she gives me the freshness you can't. Once this phase passes, I'll naturally get rid of her. To me, you are the one who matters most." Hearing that shameless remark, I stared in shock, wide-eyed. At the same time I laughed in anger. Are we women really so cheap in his eyes? When he wants us he summons us with a wave, when he doesn't, he kicks us aside like trash. I asked, trembling, "Sebastian, do you still have a conscience?" Sebastian seemed to have lost his patience, the look in his eyes was edged with irritation. "You actually have the nerve to ask me that? For years of marriage, have I ever mistreated you? Why can't you just turn a blind eye? Why can everyone else accept it, but you can't?" I laughed in anger and retorted coldly, "So by your logic, can I also go outside and look for the novelty you talk about? We each play our own games?" Those words seemed to strike a nerve. Sebastian suddenly grabbed my wrist, teeth clenched, and spat, "You dare." Meeting his furious gaze, I tugged the corner of my mouth. "See? Even you can't accept it, so what right do you have to ask me to?" "Divorce, Sebastian. I don't want to continue this any longer." He still didn't agree to the divorce. After looking at me deeply, he slammed the door and walked out. I sank onto the bed, staring at the familiar layout of the room, a wave of desolation washing over me. In the first half of the year, my father, the model of an exemplary husband, had an affair. The woman he was seeing was heavily pregnant and came straight to our door to force the issue. She caused a scene, demanding that my parents divorce. The commotion spread until everyone around knew about it. My mother had spent most of her life with him, she couldn't have been completely unaware. Yet she chose to endure in silence. I'd seen them tender and loving, and I'd also seen my father strike her to protect the mistress. I almost fell apart then, but Sebastian stepped in and resolved everything. He held me tight, his voice trembling, and kept soothing me, "I'm here, don't be afraid." From that moment on, he became my entire source of security. Wherever he went he reported back to me. Even when dining with friends, he'd make a point of calling on video just to put me at ease. But it was this very man. Behind my back, he had been keeping a woman 3 years younger than me. If I hadn't on a whim decided to clean the study that day, would he have kept her from me for the rest of his life? Everything blurred before my eyes, my stinging eyes throbbed with pain, and my lower abdomen began to ache faintly. I clutched my belly in distress, the intense pain made even walking difficult. With a sidelong glance I saw the phone on the bedside table. Instinctively I called Sebastian. 1 ring, 2 rings, the cold, mechanical voice at the other end gradually turned into a busy signal. I gritted my teeth and dialed 911. The excruciating pain became unbearable and I passed out. When I came to again, the scent of disinfectant filled my nostrils. I turned my head and saw Sebastian scowling at me. He exuded a dense, suffocating rage, as if he could lunge forward any moment and strangle me. When he saw me wake, his ink-black eyes flickered slightly. Enveloped by towering fury, he grit his teeth and demanded, "You aborted our child?" Faced with his wrath, I remained unnervingly calm. I cleared my dry throat and let out a soft, measured "Hm." "What right did you have to abort him? That was my child too." Rare for him to be so particular about this. In the 4 years we'd been married, he never once asked me about having children. Even when his parents pressured me to give them grandchildren, he would always cut in first and say, "We're still young, there's no rush to have kids right now." So I always assumed he didn't like children. "Speak up, Celia." Hearing his angry roar, I didn't bother to exert myself. I said coolly, "Because I think your mother is right, bad genes can be passed down. I don't want my child to be like his father." At the words, Sebastian froze, his expression turning ugly. In anger he kicked the chair beside him. The chair couldn't bear the force, toppled over and hit the floor with a loud clatter. I was startled, my heart jolting, and I pressed my dry lips together. Sebastian snorted with anger and amusement, saying again and again, "Celia, you really are something." Whether I was something or not I didn't know, I only knew I was exhausted. I had no energy left to argue with him. I simply closed my eyes. I don't know how long passed, but the ward had gone quiet. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself alone in the room. With Sebastian's help my mother got a sizable share of the estate when she divorced. Now she's spending that money traveling around to clear her head. In this city I only have my close friend Leona left. After resting a bit, I got in touch with her. If I'm going to get a divorce, I should be decisive. Leona hurried over, and before she even sat down I said, "Leona, can you do me a favor?" "A favor? By the way, why are you in the hospital?" I told her every recent detail, leaving nothing out. When Leona finished listening, she fell silent. Back when my dad cheated, she had advised me not to tell Sebastian. She feared those wounds might one day turn into blades that would strike me, hard. But I was too foolish, I ignored her advice and made him my entire support. So the sword I had personally handed him eventually returned like a boomerang and pierced me. It's too late for anything I say now, but I support your choice. A man who's changed his heart is like spoiled cabbage, rip him to pieces and throw him away. I smiled lightly. So I'll be bothering you for a while. Bother? When I bought the house I left you a room, you're welcome to move in any time. Her words finally put me at ease. After resting 2 days in the hospital, I went home. I didn't even have time to rest. I pulled out everything Sebastian had given me and inspected it all. Just as he said, he'd never mistreated me. The jewelry and clothes he gave were the finest. Every business trip he brought back carefully chosen gifts. Only now, rifling through them, did I notice some clothes still had their tags on. I mechanically sorted the gifts. Then I froze when I pulled out a thick stack of envelopes. Pink envelopes, each one recording Sebastian's overflowing love for me. There was no doubt he was generous with his affection. From the moment we defined our relationship, he had been keeping records of everything about us. Those thick stacks of envelopes were the proof. I held back the rush of memories and took the envelopes downstairs. "Auntie, can you give me a lighter?" The housekeeper, who was cleaning, looked puzzled but still fetched a lighter for me. I took the envelope and the lighter to the flower bed in the courtyard. The bed was full of red roses I had planted with my own hands. They were beautiful and striking in the sunlight. I composed myself, used the lighter to ignite the envelope, then without hesitation threw the burning envelope into the flower bed. The fierce flames roared like boundless fury, lighting up the surroundings. The auntie went pale at the sight. She rushed out without stopping, frantically slapping her knees. "Madam, what are you doing? Things that don't need to be kept are only an eyesore when kept. Whether memories or people, it's the same." I watched the blaze with a cold detachment, seeing the beautiful flower beds ruined before my eyes. But I did not regret it. Sebastian only knew that my mother had endured many years in a difficult marriage, too indecisive to divorce. But he didn't know that my mother and I are fundamentally different. I cannot tolerate even a grain of sand in my eye. After finishing all of it, I hired cleaning ladies from a service. They cleaned the villa inside and out until it was spotless. Not a trace remained of my life there. My aunt's persuasion failed, so she turned and called Sebastian. I heard him say coldly, "Do whatever you want, from now on, you don't need to tell me anything about her." She made the call while I stood beside her. I heard his words clearly. Fortunately, I had already resolved to divorce him. His words and actions could no longer wound me. After that, I packed my bags and moved in with Leona. Sebastian likewise stopped holding back, parading his canary freely at every event. Before this, I had been the only one accompanying him to banquets. Because of this change, many people began to speculate that our marriage was in trouble. When Leona told me about this, I was still haggling over the price with a buyer for the bag. I was unmoved by what she said. She grew anxious, though. "Are you really going to sell all the bags and jewelry Sebastian gave you? What else? I can't just get through a wedding and come away with nothing. He's unwilling to divorce now. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll have to go through the legal process to force a divorce. Once things turn sour, I might end up with nothing but the divorce certificate. I haven't worked for 4 years. If I don't have money on me, how am I supposed to survive in this society?" "You really are clear-headed," Leona praised brightly. "But I could never have imagined Sebastian would cheat. He used to love you so much." "What does love even mean? Life is so long, who can promise to love one person forever?" As I said it, I felt, unusually, a sense of release. My dad's situation is an example. He used to adore my mom, reluctant to let her cook, unwilling to see her suffer or be tired, always treating her like a princess. In the end he said, "You don't provide me emotional value. At home I feel like a slave with no dignity." The man who once couldn't bring himself to speak a harsh word to her had beaten her bloody for another woman. Perhaps this is the common moral failing of men. "Leona, what hurt me most wasn't that he had an affair. It was what he said. Didn't your dad cheat too? Your mom put up with it. I'm just playing around, why can't you?" My family of origin should not be an excuse for his moral decay. When Leona heard this, she was furious. "How can he be such a sleazebag? He shamelessly drags others down with him, why doesn't he just die?" I shrugged indifferently. Because of the two of them, I had learned a lesson. Only by taking everything lightly could one live freely. I deleted every contact related to Sebastian. I avoided everything to do with him. But I hadn't expected that one day the police would come knocking. "Miss Celia, your husband Sebastian has reported you missing. If you're fine, you should go home quickly, your husband has been looking everywhere for you." Hearing the policewoman's words, my eyes filled with bewilderment. Neighbors around poked their heads out, eager for the spectacle, countless gazes fixed squarely on me. Pressured, I forced myself to nod and replied, "I'll go back. I'm really sorry to trouble you." "Then let's go back now. We can give you a ride." I was forced to return home. The policewoman kept insisting she was looking for my Sebastian, who now sat rigid-faced on the sofa. Next to him sat a woman dressed to the nines, his recently flaunted companion, Serena. You really outdid yourself, running away from home? Before I could say anything, Sebastian's cold voice drifted over. I pulled my gaze away from Serena. Not bad yourself, you managed to bring someone back. Serena, hearing her name mentioned, stood up awkwardly. Miss Celia, please don't be angry. I'll go right away. What she did had nothing to do with me. I couldn't have cared less. Sebastian, however, shot me an annoyed look, then turned to her and said, It's late and not safe to go back now. I'll have the housekeeper prepare a room for you. Then he called the housekeeper. He asked her to help tidy the room, and reminded her to bring Serena a set of pajamas of mine that I hadn't worn. The housekeeper paused, gave me an awkward look, and said, Sir, everything that belonged to the madam in the house is gone. Sebastian clearly hadn't noticed the issue. His gaze swept the living room, and when he looked at me it was full of complexity. I met his eyes without fear. He seemed to read my resolve, and a flash of irritation crossed his face. Then have the driver take her back, he said. When Serena heard that, the proud expression that had just replaced her previously meek little face surfaced. I had no desire to play this feminine rivalry with her and turned to leave. But Sebastian quickened his pace, seized my arm, and said, This is your home, where do you think you're going? I stared into his eyes and said, word by word, this is not my home. He tightened his grip without showing emotion, a dull ache spread through my arm and my brow knit slightly. After a long moment, he seemed to relent. He sighed deeply, Celia, don't make a fuss. I'll have someone take her back right away. Serena's face went instantly pale, she forced a smile. Sebastian, no need to trouble yourself. I can go back on my own. She looked like a lily about to shatter, swaying as she stood. Yet she feigned composure, grabbed her bag and was about to leave. I noticed the flicker of turmoil on his face. I pushed his hand away in annoyance. Do you people have to be so disgusting? Sebastian, I'm not arguing with you. That doesn't mean I can accept your sick behavior, I'm just too lazy to bother with you. If you have any conscience left, don't come and make me sick. I came back with the police not because I forgave him, but because I didn't want Leona to be gossiped about by her neighbors. Miss Celia, I'm so sorry. I know my presence has caused you trouble. I'll leave right away. She bowed deeply to me and then turned and ran out of the villa. Sebastian's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of inner conflict crossing his eyes. I lifted my eyelids and said lazily, It's so late, it's not safe for a young girl to be out alone. Aren't you going to chase after her? He hesitated for 2 seconds, lowered his voice, and said gently, She still has a child's heart. Don't take it personally. I'll take her back first, when I return we'll talk. With that he grabbed the coat on the sofa and hurried out. I gave a self-mocking smile. Leona messaged at that moment, How are things over there? Has Sebastian been giving you any trouble? I hesitated for 2 seconds, no, but I feel pretty awful right now. The villa no longer felt clean, the faint jasmine scent from Serena clung to everything. If it had been some other smell, I wouldn't be so sensitive. It was just unfortunate that the perfume she wore was the one I dislike most. Leona misunderstood me and said, You're upset over a scumbag? Don't make me scold you. By the way, a design school in the US is recruiting a batch of students this year, see if you're interested. My university major was fashion design. Although I haven't worked during these 4 years, I like to make my own clothes in my spare time. For that reason Sebastian even had a design room specially built for me to play around in. It's just a pity that my pieces can only be appreciated by myself. Because the Song family doesn't like daughters-in-law showing themselves in public. Now that I'm getting a divorce, I naturally have no reason to worry about anyone's opinion anymore. Of course I will, I'll sign up right away. When I learned the news, I didn't hesitate and sent my recent drafts to the school for special recruitment screening. I also stopped staying at Leona's house and booked a room at a hotel near her place. After all, if this city no longer held the people or things I was attached to, there was no need to buy a place here. While waiting for the results, I consulted a lawyer about divorce. I had intended to file for divorce right away, but the lawyer said that without evidence of a breakdown in the relationship, you can't file for divorce, only mediation would be possible. It seemed, then, that if I wanted a quick divorce, I would have to get Sebastian to agree. I didn't want to see his nauseating face again, so I had the lawyer send him the divorce papers in my name. When Sebastian saw the divorce papers already signed with my name, he flew into a rage. He was desperate to get in touch with me. Unable to reach me, he came to Leona. "Where's Celia? Get her out here." He stood outside the door, his face full of anger, dark and brooding, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on the room. Leona blocked the doorway and wouldn't let him in. When she saw him, she looked contemptuous. "She's not here with me. If you want to find her, go look somewhere else." "Impossible. Aside from you, she has nowhere else to go." He said it with absolute certainty. I, in the next room watching variety shows, heard every word clearly. I tugged at the corner of my mouth and gave a self-mocking smile. He was right, the home that once shielded me from wind and rain was gone. In this city, the only person I could rely on left was Leona. Leona let out a cold laugh. "Sebastian, you knew that too? Have you forgotten the promise you made to her on your wedding day?" Sebastian's face went stiff, his eyes darkening. "This is a matter between the two of us as husband and wife. It has nothing to do with you. Don't forget, this is my house, none of your business. If you dare to trespass, don't blame me for being rude." Sebastian must have been sure I'd be here and tried to barge in. Coincidentally, Leona's boyfriend happened to arrive. Seeing the scene, he didn't hesitate, rushing over and throwing punches at him. Leona anxiously tried to stop them from the side. "Stop it, both of you, stop it." Seeing that we couldn't separate them, someone grabbed a phone to call security. I heard the commotion and dashed out to intervene as well. But Leona and I were like ants trying to shake a tree compared to them. Soon, 2 security guards hurried over. They methodically pulled the 2 who had been fighting apart. Sebastian usually worked out, and he struck hard and fast. Leona's boyfriend inevitably found himself at a disadvantage and was beaten until his face was battered. "Sebastian, are you crazy?" I couldn't help shouting angrily. His dark eyes, full of anger, stared straight at me and he gritted his teeth. "If you'd come out sooner, would this have happened?" I laughed in anger. He was always like this. Unable to see his own mistakes. He blamed everything on others. "Save your moralizing, Celia isn't going back with you. If you have any decency left, sign the divorce papers now and stop making me sick." Leona didn't hold back either, she stood protectively in front of me and glared at him. These things had to be settled. I let out a deep sigh and patted her shoulder. "Leona, take him and get his wounds treated first. I'll talk to him." Leona snorted at him coldly. Then she said, "Then you two talk. If he tries anything, shout and I'll call the police immediately." I smiled faintly and turned toward the elevator. The commotion here would attract the neighbors' attention. I didn't intend to stay long, their pointing fingers meant nothing to me. But Leona was different, this was the home she had fought so hard to build. Sebastian remained silent the whole time after coming out. Only when we stepped out of the elevator did he say, "My car is just outside the complex. Let's go home." I turned my head and looked at him coldly. "Do you think there's any point in going back to how things were? Sebastian, shouldn't you have expected this day from the moment you cheated?" "Celia, I know this is my fault. I'm willing to give you anything as compensation, just give me another chance." For once, a hint of hurt appeared on Sebastian's face. There was caution and pleading in his eyes. He thought that if he lowered himself and coaxed me enough, I'd foolishly go back to how things were. But sadly, I'm not someone who settles. "Then let me ask you this, if you throw something dirty into the trash, would you pick it up again and pretend you hadn't held a grudge?" Sebastian's body trembled slightly, his thin lips pressed tight. His deep black eyes held an emotion I couldn't read. "Even if I sent her away and loved you with all my heart, you still wouldn't forgive me, would you? When he said this, his voice choked, and a flicker of doubt crossed his face. He really had thought about sending her away. But it was only a thought. If he had truly meant to sever that relationship, he wouldn't be asking, he would be proving it to me with his actions. Do you know, the biggest reason I've been able to keep this marriage going is because of your love. But now I can't feel that love anymore. Together, we've become people who settle. You also know the kind of person I hate most, yet you didn't hesitate to become exactly that person. No. I know I was wrong, Celia. I love you. Give me a chance and I will prove it to you. I smiled without speaking. I didn't believe a single word he said. And he seemed determined to prove it to me. After returning home, I cleaned out the flower beds that had been turned into a mess. He wanted to personally replant those brilliant flowers. Aunt sent me photos of him picking through the flower beds bit by bit to clear the debris, and wrote, "Madam, your husband still loves you. Divorce is a serious matter, think it over carefully, don't do something you'll regret." Regret? The answer was no. I only knew that if I couldn't hold to my resolve this time, the future me would be the one to personally deliver myself to hell. I ignored the messages she sent. I pretended I hadn't seen them. I had caused Leona a lot of trouble. To prevent Sebastian from finding his way to her house again, I returned straight to the hotel. On empty days like that, I worked on new inspirations. I used to have a wish. To open a clothing studio of my own. To bring my independent brand into the public eye. Now the opportunity is right in front of me, and of course I can't let it go. I sold quite a few luxury items and saved up a good sum. Enough for me to go abroad and study intensively. Just as I had planned out how to use the money, my mother called. She didn't sound weary on the other end this time, her voice was bright with cheer. "Celia, I'm planning to come back next week to see you all. What would you like as a gift?" "No need, don't come back," I said abruptly. My mother froze for a moment, then grew anxious again. "Celia, did I do something to upset you?" Hearing that, I suddenly realized my tone had been off earlier. I hurried to add, "No, it's not that. I just feel there's no reason for you to come back. I'm getting a divorce from Sebastian, and I don't plan to stay here any longer." My mother had been worn down for years by my father's constant emotional drain, which made her personality timid and cautious, always afraid of upsetting others. I chose to divorce decisively because I refused to follow her path. After all, I've never done anything monstrous in my life. I'm not bad, so why shouldn't I be allowed to be happy? My mother fell silent when she heard that. Then, cautiously, she asked, "Could it be that Mom and Dad's divorce has affected you?" "No, don't overthink it. It's not about that, our feelings are incompatible, divorce was only a matter of time." My mother didn't believe me and wanted to probe further. Thinking she'd find out sooner or later anyway, I decided to be frank. With that, she couldn't find any reason left to dissuade me from divorcing. She choked up for a moment, her voice wavering, "Celia, you're braver than I am." Her words, though seemingly incongruous, made me understand her meaning in an instant. If she had been as decisive as I was back then, she wouldn't have been stuck in mental turmoil for so many years, and nearly lost herself. I smiled. "It's not too late for you to wake up now. Since you're out traveling, enjoy yourself. When I've really settled things, come see me." We talked for a while longer before hanging up. As I was thinking about washing up and getting some rest, I suddenly noticed an email that had arrived from overseas 3 minutes earlier. My hands trembling with excitement, I opened it. The next second, an ecstatic scream burst out of my mouth. I was successfully admitted. The email from the school was the acceptance letter, and it stated the reporting date. I read it back and forth 3 times before I slowly accepted the fact. I smiled inwardly and, full of joy, drifted into sleep. The next afternoon I had an early appointment with Leona to get our nails done. Seeing my beaming face, she genuinely shared my happiness. "Before, when I asked you to come get your nails done with me, you didn't want to. Now you're more enthusiastic than I am." Because I don't have to worry about other people's attitudes anymore, I replied calmly. I used to love being beautiful. It was just that Sebastian's mother didn't like it. To please his family, I could only conform to their idea of an exemplary daughter-in-law. But now, I am myself. No one has the right to boss me around. I told the manicurist which style I wanted. When I looked up again, I saw Serena pale as a ghost. She seemed to have lost her soul, her steps unsteady, wandering without purpose. I frowned and looked away. But she noticed me. She mustered herself and pushed the door open. Her lips, drained of color, were frighteningly dry, her voice was hazy. Miss Celia, may we talk? I really had nothing to talk to her about. I was about to refuse when I saw her looking at me with pleading eyes. Fine, 3 minutes, I said slowly, rising. Leona, you sit down first. I'll be right back. Leona showed no warmth toward Serena, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Okay, but keep your distance from her, don't catch any filthy disease. Serena's already ashen complexion grew even paler. She seemed to want to laugh, but no matter how she tried, she couldn't. Before long, Serena and I arrived at a cafe not far from the nail salon. A server approached, and I reflexively ordered 2 coffees. She weakly interrupted me, just a glass of plain water for me. I can't drink coffee right now. I raised an eyebrow but didn't press the matter. Serena explained, I just had a miscarriage. Hearing that, I looked at her in shock. Was it Sebastian's? She didn't speak, but a painful smile tugged at her lips. This must be the punishment God gave me. I gave myself to him for money, becoming the shameful mistress at his side. I was so deluded. After you 2 fought and filed for divorce, he took me everywhere. I thought, bit by bit, he had feelings for me. But in the end, he personally tore her dream to shreds. Serena smiled bitterly. He said I don't even compare to a single hair of yours, told me not to indulge in wild fantasies. A few days ago I found out I was pregnant and went to the hospital. The doctor said my uterine lining is thin and it's not easy to carry a child. If this baby is lost, I might lose the chance to ever be a mother. Every word she said stunned me. Even after the doctor said that, she still miscarried. I couldn't quite understand what she was thinking. Serena seemed to notice my bewilderment and went on, I originally planned to keep the child and raise it myself, but when he found out, he said only you could bear his child, so he took me to the hospital and had me undergo the procedure. Now, not only was the child gone, she had nearly lost half her life. So why are you telling me this? She smiled lightly. I just wanted to warn you, don't easily believe a man's lies. I left, and another will come. You're a good person, don't let a man ruin you. What makes you think I'm a good person? Because other women, when they know their husbands are cheating, are the first to go after the other woman and make a scene. But you didn't. You even ignored my existence. It was you who let me keep my last shred of dignity. I didn't make a scene, wasn't that also to protect my own dignity? No sooner had she finished speaking than Sebastian, having heard the news from who knows where, hurried over. Serena! How dare you come looking for her? Sebastian's barrage of reproach fell over her, his face dark and stormy. Serena stiffened at his scolding, so frightened she didn't dare breathe. Sebastian. Her meekness made my brow crease. I raised a hand to pinch the bridge of my nose and slowly stood. Sebastian, is that the only trick you have? Sebastian looked at me in a panic, stammering, Celia, I cut him off impatiently, enough, there's no need for idle talk. You're here, have you decided whether to sign? His face went pale, he still clenched his teeth. I will not agree to a divorce. Don't even think about it. The outcome was to be expected. I wasn't surprised, I was too lazy to argue with him, so I picked up my bag and was about to leave. Then come find me when you need to sign. With that said, I left in carefree style. Yesterday I consulted a lawyer again. After 3 years of separation you can file for divorce. Since he's unwilling to divorce now, I'll wait and file when the time comes. No need to waste energy and words on him. To deal with this mess, I turned to Leona again. After getting my nails done in the afternoon, that evening we went out on a wild shopping spree. We even went and did all the things I hadn't been able to do before. Even Leona couldn't help but sigh, marveling at how terrifying revenge spending could be. To avoid being tracked down by Sebastian, I changed hotels every day while I was still in the country. Once my visa was approved, I didn't hesitate to book a plane ticket abroad. The day before my flight, Leona said we should celebrate my new life. She specially gave me a talisman imbued with good wishes. Wear this, it will keep you safe and smooth in everything. If you go abroad, don't forget me, I'll be here waiting for the day you return triumphant. After Leona finished speaking, she immediately broke down in tears. It couldn't help but remind me of my wedding day. She cried just as miserably then. Anyone who didn't know might have thought someone had stolen her money. I laughed and hugged her. Wait for me to make some money and buy a big villa, so you can live in a large house. All right. It's a deal. It's a deal. That night we all slept soundly, even our dreams were sweet. Because with the passing of today, what awaited me would be a whole new life. On the day of boarding, the sun was bright outside. I felt clear-headed and refreshed. Sitting in the car and gazing at the sky, the future I was envisioning seemed to be right before my eyes. Leona drove, chatting with me from time to time. Suddenly, I saw a license plate a little familiar on the car right behind. My heart skipped a beat and I turned to look. But the car's shadow was gone. I withdrew my gaze and kept talking with her. After a long while, full of the hopes we shared, I arrived in a strange land. The school has student dormitories, but I was afraid of getting into conflicts with roommates. So I didn't apply to live on campus. Instead, I chose a studio apartment not far from the school. On the first day I arrived, I rushed about cleaning the house that hadn't been lived in for a long time. By the time I finished tidying everything and allowed myself to rest, 2 hours had already passed. I was exhausted, collapsing onto the sofa to rest. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Leona calling. I answered cheerfully, "I'm here, I've tidied the whole place up, I'll be there in a bit." I hadn't finished speaking. The silent Leona said in a low voice, "Celia, Sebastian, we're in a car accident." I flicked my brows and licked my dry lips. "It's not like I caused it, why tell me?" After saying that, Serena's earlier words suddenly came back to me. She had gotten her comeuppance, forever losing the right to be a mother. Does that mean Sebastian's car accident is also retribution? When they were resuscitating him, the doctors issued a notice of critical condition once. He's now in the ICU. After all, you're still his legal wife, and his parents are looking for you everywhere. Do you want to find the time to come back? No, it's pointless. Once you've chosen to let go, you shouldn't keep dangling strings. Fine, he had a car accident on his way to find you. If his parents find you, they'll certainly make trouble for you. Hearing that, I fell silent. I thought, once you've forgotten love, you should let go. He wants it both ways. Doing this, what exactly is the point? Leona, I don't want to hear anything more about him. From the moment I decided on divorce, we were doomed to become strangers. Okay, you live well there and take good care of yourself. We exchanged a few words, then she hung up. After that, several unknown numbers called me in succession. I answered once, it was Sebastian's mother. The moment she picked up she started swearing, saying I had ruined Sebastian and should be thrown in jail. Her words were empty noise, I replied casually and hung up. From then on I ignored any unknown calls. A week later, Leona sent another message. Sebastian, lying in the ICU, had not responded to resuscitation and died at 2 in the morning. I only heard the news after the professor had praised me. So it stirred not a single ripple in my heart. According to his assistant, he left half his estate to you, and on his deathbed he had him pass on a message. He said, if he were given another chance, he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. What's the use of saying that now? There's no remedy for regret in this world. I hung up the phone. I looked up at the boundless sky and, controlling my expression, revealed a faint smile. The professor walked out of the classroom. Seeing the situation, he said in halting Chinese, "It will all pass."